Yes, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Veterans Minimum. I'm your host, Nick Dais. At Nick Dais, 10 as you can find me. All things Veterans Minimum at Veterans Minimum. My guest today, I'm excited. I've been a fan of yours for a while. Being back in New York, I knew about you coming up. We have some mutual friends in the space, and we finally connected a couple of weeks ago, grabbing some beers. But now we're connecting on a pod, and it's the first one that I'm doing on this side.
Yeah, this is like a different vibe here. It's great. I mean, it's awesome to be here. I've done a couple, other podcasts in this studio before, and it's like a totally different, and also you get a really good view of all the people walking outside. I think this is my favorite part of this studio.
Yeah,
is the fishbowl element. People are like, what is going on in there?
It's very nice. They can hear us on the outside too, which is always dope.
I love when I love when they like turn. You're like, what? And you wave and then they wave back.
Yeah, and sometimes there are a lot of nice things that walk by that kind of catch your attention, and we'll leave it at that before we get in trouble.
Not here, right? There's no
dude,
nice
listen, I asked
not a classy hotel at all, is it?
Yeah, not at all. But I do request to maybe sometimes start recording on Fridays and Saturdays because maybe we stumble.
That's a good idea. I bet. Well, my mom stays here a lot too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So this is the hotel that she's at every time she comes to Vegas, unless she's working. She does like advertising, so she comes to town a lot, but anytime she comes personally, she stays here. So I eat here all the time. Allegro is really good. We went to Sinatra's last time over at Encore. I love this place. I mean, this is not an advertisement for Win, but
it's a cheap plug.
It can be.
Nah, I feel the same way, dude. All the years that I've been coming to Vegas, I've been coming to Vegas since I turned 22. I'm 32 now. And I know we were talking about this before we started recording, how, just being in the space and being into sports betting, we've been coming out to Vegas for a while. And you and I kind of ended up in Vegas around the same time, dude.
It's crazy. I think everything happens for a reason, right? And, me coming here at this time in my career was kind of a culmination of a lot of things. Personally, it was a time that I needed a change. Professionally, it made sense for years. I transitioned into sports betting in 2019. I almost moved out here right before the pandemic. In February of 2020, I got a job at Wager Talk, which is a handicapping service. And I was still working for a couple of other networks at the time, but the bulk of a lot of the people who worked for Wager Talk lived in Vegas. So I almost moved out here. Literally, I came out here. I went to an Isles Knights game. We'll get to the Knights in a minute, right? Right before Valentine's Day 2020, right before it all hit the fan. And I was thinking about moving out here. I didn't. It was a blessing because I kind of, rejuvenated myself a little bit in New York and then moved out here when I felt the timing was right in my career, which was now, or last year.
Yo, it's wild to hear that you were going to move here in February of 2020 because March of 2020 was the first. So I got with Blue Wire in 2019.
Yeah.
My podcast got picked up by Blue Wire at the end of 2019. And one of the things I really wanted to do in 2020 was do a lot more traveling, but for the show. I wanted to go and do some remote interviews and meet with some people. And I knew a bunch of people in Vegas through the years of coming here all the time, but mostly doing like degenerate stuff.
Oh yeah.
Bachelor parties and pool parties and whatnot.
For years. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've been here once a year since I was maybe 25.
Yeah.
Like 10 straight years.
Yeah. Same here with the exception of those 18 months during the pandemic.
Yeah. Of course.
And Andreas, who records a show here at the studio, The Corner with Kel Dansby, he was a guy that when I first joined Blue Wire, Jared, he was one of the names that was being pitched because he's such a big personality in the media space. And I had connected with him and I said, dude, I'm going to be out in Vegas for the fight. My birthday's in March. It was March 7th was the card. My birthday is the 11th. And I was like, you know what, man? Let's do some cool shit for my birthday. And I flew out my editor to Alex from Chicago. It was the first time I met him. I was like, yo, come, we'll record a bunch of stuff. We'll shoot a bunch of B-roll and whatnot. And then literally I remember going back home and that's when the pandemic hit.
It's crazy. I was in an Upper East Side studio, 500 square feet. Probably this studio, probably 2 times the size of my apartment in New York.
I believe in it. You were probably paying like $2,000 for it too.
and it was, so I mean, it was a time in my life that was crazy. Like that year leading up to the pandemic, September 2019, I got divorced.
Whoa.
That was crazy, obviously. We won't get into that too much. And then the pandemic happened. I lost my dad during that time to cancer. It was just a really, really dark time that year. And then
a lot of life happened in a short instance, man.
In an 18-month stretch between September 2019 and May 2021, it was like divorce, dad, pandemic, and I got laid off. And then it kind of reset from there. But then that year after that, like the 2021-2022 football season with the Super Bowl out in LA, I went to that Super Bowl. The first time I've ever attended a Super Bowl. And like that was kind of the time in my life when I felt like, okay, I'm ready now to make a change. I feel like I've recovered from what was just, so it could wreck another person, you know, that doesn't have the resolve, I guess. I'll, tap myself on the back, but.
Nah, and you absolutely should too, man.
And then I moved out here in August 22. So it was like that. It was like a 2-3 year kind of like just complete rejuvenation of everything. And then of course you've been following the content. That's kind of been, I buried my head in my work. I mean, that's what you do when you deal with personal trauma in your life. You dedicate yourself to something, you grind, and
you need something to take away that distraction.
It was a lot. And probably I dedicated too much time to it, right? It's the work-life balance. But I found that work-life balance out here. I know you've experienced it too. Just the happiness of, because New York's a grind.
Yeah.
It's a grind. And I moved to Jersey City, like similar vibes. You know, I moved to Jersey for sports betting.
Yeah.
Because in New York, I was living in New York at the time. I was like, I got to drive across the bridge every time. Moved to New Jersey for sports betting. A year just grinding. Sports Grid, Pickswise, all that stuff, VSiN. And then I was like, it's time. I'm ready. And that's when it like struck me like a bolt of lightning. Like, it's time to go. It's time to move.
Dude, I love it because I remember one time I was reading this book, and I'm not going to come off as like this crazy reader and whatnot, you know.
I only read like 5 books in my entire life that I remember.
Dude, I've read more books since I turned 27 than I did my entire
audiobooks now, bro.
Oh yeah,
That's all I do now.
No, so I'm a little.
You can't do it. You can't do the podcast. You do a podcast. You can listen to a podcast.
Yeah, but it just feels weird, like the audio.
I feel you.
The audio version of a book, because what I do is when I put my notes together for my shows, I write them down first.
Sure.
When I put things in my calendar, I write it down first. What I got to buy at the supermarket, what I got to pay this month, what's coming up, I write it down, and then I put it in my phone. It's just mentally,
everyone
it just works.
Has their own.
Yeah, everyone got
stuff.
their thing. Yeah. And for me, the craziest thing was going back to what you said about New York being a grind. Like, dude, I came up way different than you in the sense of like, you probably went to school for all this stuff, right?
Yeah, like my career was a lot of news reporting, sports reporting, local markets, college sports, minor league sports, Trenton Thunder, FAU. That was an awesome run. LaSalle University, Flint, Michigan news reporter, and then New York City kind of cable news, regional sports network type stuff. And then gambling. Well, actually, then finance, then gambling. That's just a whole nother. You can blame the ex on that. Ex thought it would be more stable, and I agreed with her. I'm the one that did it.
Yeah, look, it's definitely more stable, but you know what? It's not as fun.
Well, here's the thing, and like this is what I always harp on to a lot of young people that are coming up in this. Like, there are experiences you have in your day-to-day life that shape gambling in life. Gambling and life are like one and the same. It's decisions, risk management, weighing options in your brain and taking the more logical choice. But working in finance, like, was like the perfect appetizer to doing a betting analyst role. You have actual credibility about like, hey, like I used to work at Merrill Lynch. Like I know a thing or two about buying low and selling high. This is how a market works. And they're very similar markets. They're just different. You just have to plug the gaps.
And it also doesn't seem as frowned upon as telling people that you're in the gambling space. Dude, one time I was at a bar in New York City, and I was with a couple of buddies, and this girl comes up to me and she's asking me like what I do. And Jared, I can't tell you why. I said I'm in predictive analytics.
Yeah, short-term high volatility investments.
Yeah.
That's I have a friend that came up with that. short-term, high volatility investments.
So I told her that. She's like, oh my God, it sounds so interesting.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
like, yeah, I look at all these charts and gather all this data and trends, and it influences my decision on the weekends.
100%.
And then my friend,
You're not lying.
I'm not. No, that's what was hilarious. It's just like, yeah, that's a funny way of telling people that you do daily fantasy and sports.
I just tell people I'm on TV. Yeah, that's the best way, because they don't really care what you're talking about when you're telling them you're on TV. Like if it's like a casual, oh, what do you do for work? Oh, I'm on TV. Then they ask the question, oh, well, what do you do? What network? What this and that?
They want you to elaborate more.
Then I go deeper. But like, just like you could be like, hey, I have a podcast. Then they, it's like the hook. Like, oh, what's you murder podcasts? What is it? Kind of podcast is it? Oh, well, predictive analytics.
And now I tell people that I'm at the Win recording, and it's the best wingman, Jared, I've ever had. That's for damn sure. Shout out to Blue Wire. Shout out to the studio.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I think this is one of those places that you have it's like a hotbed for brainstorming creativity when you're in a space like this. Yeah,
it definitely beats doing it at my 2-bedroom apartment in Queens. Exactly. It makes it a lot easier to get guests on when you tell them, hey, I record at the Win. I'm in Vegas. As opposed to, I also live here. It's just different. But it's cool though, because without a doubt, man. I have no desire to ever leave. At all.
The only way I would ever leave is if someone just dropped a massive bag at my door and said, you have to move here for this job. But I try not to live in those realities anymore. This is the reality I want to live in.
I want to do whatever I can to not have to move from here.
I mean, at the end of the day, you can thank COVID for this. Like our career path now is way more remote than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
You can literally be a star on a network that, like an ESPN that has a headquarters in Bristol, Connecticut, and you could be a star anywhere in the country based off of how they set up your home studio and where their remotes are, all that stuff. Like it's the truth. Like it's more about how you produce and like what your audience is and how you get your stuff out than it is where you're located.
Dude, it's fascinating that you bring that up, because I couldn't agree with you more, because when the pandemic hit, it was obviously it was so polarizing for so many different reasons. But to me, the pandemic was the ultimate like yin yang in my life, in the sense where professionally and with the content, that's when things started to take off for me.
Oh yeah.
But then personally, dude, I lost like $50,000 of my own money investing it in a food truck with my dad, because my dad has a coffee truck in New York City. So we were going to breakfast. He's been there now for 30 years, 49th and Park Avenue.
Oh, wow. That's a hot spot too.
Yeah.
That's right where my old office was in Midtown.
Dude, he's been there since 1992.
Those businesses are like, it's insane how they work every day. That is a grind.
It's the ultimate grind.
That is a grind.
I've never been on a family vacation.
The streets of New York are just not a place to spend 8 to 10 hours consecutively. It's not a fun place.
5 days a week. At one point, we were doing 6 days because the Saturdays
started
getting
crazy. Part of town, but man, it's still, you smell trash, urine, violence, crime.
We're in the city.
Sirens.
We're in the city at 4 a.m. to this
tough
day,
life, bro. That's a tough life.
So we were gonna expand the business, because I was in a weird spot where I always wanted to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But also, be realistic and job security and have a steady income.
That's why I left the business for finance. For exactly the same reason.
So I convinced my dad, and I had saved up some money, ironically enough, through gambling, daily fantasy. I had this one year where I won like close to $60,000. It was, it was nuts.
Never hit that mark before.
And then I won like a eliminator pool.
Is that how you started betting, was fantasy?
No, I mean, I've been betting my whole life, dude, truthfully. But I would say that I started betting more and got more control of it once I turned like 27, 20. Because if you've really been in the game, you've had those, man, I might have to sell my Xbox to pay my bookie kind of moments.
In high school is when I started betting. I steal my mom's credit card and deposit offshore.
Yeah.
I remember one time on a cruise, you could charge blackjack, like at the casino. And I just turned 18 and went on a cruise. I forget. I think it was Royal Caribbean or something. And you could charge the casino credit back to the room. And so I charged like $500 casino chips back to the room. And my mom's looking through the charges at the end of the trip. She's like, what's this $500 casino credit? Yeah, it happens.
Dude, I was charging like Western Union. You had to send those.
Well, the way you deposited back then on the offshores, I don't want to list any sports book by names, but they were
MoneyGrams.
And I remember cashing out. And I did cash out. Like I had a few football seasons that were, for me back when I was in my early 20s, just graduated college, maybe 25, $2 or $3 grand.
Oh, dude, yeah.
So like I would deposit early in the year, and I got better about not reloading later, but everyone reloads at some point. But I always, after football season was always, after Super Bowl, I always made a cash out. And then I always like kind of started my bankroll fresh for college basketball in February and then built it back up to March. Like that was kind of the routine. Baseball, I was always kind of sporadic. I never really had a routine with baseball until the last couple of years with the Nerfy stuff. But the football, I would always cash out, and the checks you would get from them, you go to the bank and you're like, I hope you take this. They did most of the time. I got one check bounced once in my life.
Wow.
And I probably cashed, I would estimate maybe like over the course of my life, maybe I'd cashed 10, 15 grand. It's, maybe 4 or 5 years of like $2 grand here and there, blah, blah, blah. Well, I was in a lot too, but
yeah, well, that's the
those
thing,
checks
right?
are always shady, man.
I know.
And you can't do it like that anymore. It's all big. It's all with like Bitcoin now. They do it now.
Yeah, and dude, also you just, like you said, one of your checks bounced.
One of them did.
You didn't know
one of them bounced.
If like, maybe you had $5K in one of those shady offshore accounts, and you never really knew until it actually hit your account. Like even if you got the check, you're like,
for the regulators that are watching, I have no money in any offshore accounts at this current state.
Yeah, nah, I don't even do
Never
that.
Again. It's too accessible now here.
That, and also, I like knowing that I can't
Peace
bet
of mind.
unless I have the money.
Oh,
right?
that too.
In the past, everyone had on credit. You had the bookies.
Credit.
Like everyone knows about that.
I did a little local bookie stint too, and it lasted like a year. The payment process is so awkward. It's just awkward. Yeah. It's weird. I'd rather not do it that way. I don't want to know the face of the person that I'm collecting or giving money to. I don't want a face.
And just
don't want a face.
For me personally, it's better now where if I have $300-400 and there's a huge UFC coming up, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna bet that. Why not? I have the money. I could do it. As opposed to me not having it, and you're my bookie. You're like, oh yeah, here's this account for $1,000, and now I'm just chasing, right? Like, oh, I have this imaginary 1,000, and then you come knocking on the door. You call me like,
that's the key though, because people
it's discipline over the years too.
People don't know how. Like but the thing is, you have to bust out first.
Yeah.
Before you really learn. The people that do it like we do it, which is, it's a lifestyle. Let's be honest. It's a lifestyle. I could do this for a job for a million years. I'll still do it when I'm not working.
Oh yeah.
Because I love it. And I don't give out every bet that I make. Like that's insane. I'd be tweeting and logging all day. Like there's a boundary there where I say, this is the professional side of my job.
Right.
But it's Saturday night and it's 10 p.m., which is pretty late here compared to the West Coast or compared to the East Coast. And there's a game on that I'm bored. And I'm like, oh, I think the teams can come back and win. Oh, they're 2-1 on the live line. All right, $20. I'm not going to like tweet that out like, oh, that's my pick, but my life. I love it. Like it's what gives me happiness. Like, and it's never an exorbitant amount. It used to be an exorbitant amount. It's less now. Like those fun bets, right?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, man. This is such a, one issue that I have with the sports betting space, and I know we've talked about this in the past, like too many people are, I'm right, I gotta be right. Like they forget how fun it could be too.
Well, it's a job when people do it for their job.
Yeah.
Their livelihoods are on the line.
That's true.
And the funny thing is it is very much starting to compare itself to being a professional. The content space in general is very much like the same lifestyle. You're on display publicly most of the time, every day.
Open to criticism.
Win or lose, right?
Yeah.
There's a win or a loss factor. You have to answer to the media after the game. People are going to troll you. They're going to talk to you. You have to interact with the current players in the space, but I'm competing for that guy's salary.
Yeah.
Like it's friendly. Like the baseball players, right? Football players, they're friendly on the field. They exchange jerseys, but well, if I'm better than you and I have a better grade or better ranking, well, I'm going to get a 5% more of my salary next year. So it's friendly competition, but it's still competition and it gets gets heated sometimes. People take it personally, and it's tough. You have to be mature. You have to have thick skin. I honestly, I know it's obviously the athletic prowess not there, but there's a talent level to picking game.
Yeah, for sure.
And like you have to, some people have it, some people don't. Some people struggle with it. They fake it. It's hard. It's really hard.
And even the thought process, I think, is very interesting because we were having this conversation. We were watching game 1 together of the NBA Finals. And you took the over 2.5 threes made by Porter.
Michael Porter.
And
tough series.
Yeah, tough series. But here's the thing, right? You were saying how he had 2 threes going into halftime.
Yeah. And he attempted like 7 in the first half.
Yeah. He ends up attempting 11. He goes 2 for 11 from 3. And you and I are talking because we understand the space. We understand the ebbs and flows of sports betting. It's like, dude, he took 11 attempts. Like, that's a great read.
If I knew if the shots were going to go in,
of course,
I'd be living on a desert island already.
Yeah.
With my own like butler and cabana.
But your thought process into saying that, 2.5 is a low number.
Yeah.
I think he'll get over it. Yeah, dude, he attempted 11.
And then it
threes.
changed dramatically when all of a sudden he went from 43 minutes to 21 minutes. But that was another story for another day.
He got
but hey, he got his ring. And he had a good game 5 too. He played well in the clincher. Went over both his props. So I always respect. And that's a good transition into the Nuggets because it kind of reminds me of, I think the most successful people long-term, because they're the most happy, are the ones that are kind of the most humble. Like Denver, like look at that Nuggets team. How good of a story was that? Yeah. Nikola Jokic could care less about any accolade personally.
That video of him saying, "Oh man, the parade is on Thursday."
He wants to go back with his family.
He wants to buy a horse and go to his family.
And Jamal Murray with the ACL and how humble he is.
So like, I'm glad you brought that up because I feel as if the conversation coming into the NBA Finals was, no one's going to care about this because it's not big markets, it's not big names.
Sure.
And my counter to that was, dude, this is how we felt about Golden State 10 years ago.
Sure.
Who would have thought that Golden State being in the finals every year would draw such a massive number? And you're looking at this Nuggets team. I always look at like, who are your top 6 guys? They're all under contract.
Yeah.
Bruce Brown's the only one who has a player option.
Yeah. The core is there.
The core is there. They're still young enough.
Very well coached too. Malone's a very underrated coach.
Still good enough. And my question to you is, dude, if Murray doesn't get hurt and then he misses 2 seasons, 2 playoffs he misses, this might be their second title.
Might be. I think in the NBA, it's tougher because of the stars. Like, we don't know who that next star that's going to take this sport over. And maybe it's Wembanyama, right? That there could be an ascent from another guy that's kind of middling right now and makes that leap. So in the NBA, I think that's why it's so dynastic because the stars are there for a while and it's such a star-driven sport. It's not like that in the NFL. It's definitely not like that in the NHL, like not anymore. Maybe back in the 70s and 80s it was with like the Oilers and the Islanders, but it's just the star in baseball. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Stars are just, they're almost irrelevant in baseball. But in basketball, they shape who wins most years. There's 10 guys, 5 to 10 guys that are like that are like the high court, right? Like the lords of the league.
I think there's about 5 to 10 guys that like truly matter.
And one of those guys is going to win most every year.
Pretty much.
Not in the NHL. Who's the star on this Vegas team?
Yeah.
It's not a McDavid or an Austin Matthews or one of those guys. That's for sure. Like in terms of like the guy.
Yeah.
They're very talented play and they played well. It's a team, right? The NFL, I think quarterback position, you can kind of do that, but I think it's more pronounced in the NBA, the most pronounced. Where in the NFL, there's still 11 guys on the field, 22 offense, defense. The NBA, there's 5.
Yeah.
And usually it's 1 or 2 of them that are
change everything.
Everything.
Yeah, and the dynamic between Jokic and Murray, you could tell that they get along. You could tell.
Oh, they're so unselfish.
Yeah, and the vibe of them, you could tell
humble.
You could tell that they hang
like
out.
Each other. Yeah, no, that matters.
Yeah,
that matters in team sports. Doesn't matter as much, I think, in the NFL. Although we'll get the Bills theory to the test this year.
Yeah, that's going to be
all that chemistry, right? That's an intangible. That's very hard to quantify for us as handicappers. How do you quantify that? Very hard.
Yeah, how do you quantify a guy like a Aaron Gordon who was on a shitty team in Orlando? Now he goes to Denver and he's not asked to be the number one option. He's not asked to be the number two option.
No.
Hell, not even number three sometimes. And now you're looking at him saying he was a lottery pick. He was kind of a cast off, an afterthought, I should say better. But now he's in a situation where he's not asked to be that guy. And you see how great he plays with them.
Makes perfect sense to me. I think when you look at team dynamics, I think in the NFL, again, it's not as important. There's two different teams, offense and defense. Like the team chemistry is not as important. You have to be cohesive on offense. But when it's like all five guys playing as one, that matters. I think it matters more in college basketball. I think we saw it at FAU, San Diego State, like the collective outweighs the individual talent. It matters more in basketball than I think in hockey too, probably. The collective can outweigh individual talent.
It's also less players, so that's why.
Yeah. The NBA, though, it really, if you have stars and the collective that Denver has, that's rare. How often, and just look at the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics are the perfect example of this. How do you lose to that Heat team 3 times on your home floor in 4 games? I don't know. There's no real explanation for it besides Miami played a lot more collectively in that game, and Boston was playing individually.
Well, you would see the guys that would deliver for the Heat. It's like Strauss, Gabe Vincent.
That was an unbelievable run by Miami, and that it'll go overshadowed because I do think Denver deserves the credit. They're a worthy champion, but that run by Miami was one of the better runs in the history of the NBA.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah,
as an 8th seed. Oh, if you go
Game
even
7
further,
on the road,
you go back even further with they had a playing game, right? So they had the
almost
playing
out,
game,
5 minutes,
almost out, and then you beat the 1 seed, then you beat the Knicks,
crazy.
then you beat the Celtics the way you did, and all the pressure that they probably had after it got sent to Game 7.
Unbelievable. Up 3-0 in the series. Yeah, it was one of the better runs. But the Nuggets deserve, I mean, they have both. They have a star and they have chemistry. That is really hard. Really hard to match.
Anytime a team wins a title, one of the things that I like to ask is, do you think the right team won it for that year?
This year. 100%.
And I think that's the answer.
Oh, absolutely. Because all of the other stars are flawed. There isn't a Warriors team from a few years ago that had stars and were not flawed.
Yeah.
Every star has warts this year. Giannis had the injuries that he was dealing with. Tatum and Brown, the chemistry stuff. Embiid is in his own head half the time, probably worried about the MVP most years or most days. And I think the Nuggets were the only team that really had their eye on the prize the whole season. And they're the number 1 seed in the West. They were the number 1 seed in the West as an underdog in the 2nd round with home court against the Phoenix Suns. Yeah. That is how disrespected the Denver Nuggets were.
And basically a coin flip against the Lakers. Was it like
with
minus
home court? A Lakers team that just got through the play-in.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the Warriors of those years winning a bunch of games. Maybe not as many as they won, but however many the Nuggets won. A 1 seed in the playoffs as an underdog in the 2nd round. That's just bizarre.
And that's the thing that I kept saying about these finals, that we might be looking at this Denver team and saying, dude, we're never going to see them as a dog in the 2nd round
never again.
For the next 5 years.
But now, just like buy low, sell high, now we don't have the opportunity to bet them every night.
Yeah, we dropped the ball there if you didn't.
This was the year.
Yeah. You got them early.
You will not get another year to make a fair wager on the Nuggets until the pendulum swings back and they fall off the map again.
Just like Golden State. The first year that they won the finals in 2015, I believe they were 30-1. And then
favorite the next year.
You're
not betting the Nuggets as a favorite right now to win the NBA title next year. You'll bet them at 20-1 if they drop, but it's tough to bet them as the favorite. Even though they're probably worthy of the favorite, it's obvious that the market, something about them the market doesn't like. So it downgrades
you're gonna need something like an injury to a guy that's gonna come back later on. Like when you saw the Warriors when they won it 2 years ago, it was what are we gonna get out of Clay?
Well, Clay was the ACL.
Clay was ACL and then the Achilles. So you didn't know what you were gonna get out of him. And I believe they were like in the teens somewhere. And this was a team that had like, I'd never seen in my life, dude, a minus favorite to win a title from the beginning of the year. Like you did the year that they had the
joke.
when they had Durant and then Boogie and all those guys.
At least Denver's 6-1.
Yeah.
But again, that's more, gambling stuff. Like, I don't like betting futures markets 10 months out unless I'm betting on a long shot.
Yeah.
If you're betting the favorite now for next year's NBA, I'm not even betting the favorites in the NFL season that starts in like 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, Denver's going to be 6-1 in 6 months when the season starts, and they inevitably start slow because Jokic wanted to spend more time at home with his horse and, was late getting over for training camp. And, champions have a bit of a hangover. That's very normal. So why would you bet like that? It makes no sense to me to bet 6-1 now.
No, you're right. It would need to be something where I've already taken a future on the Denver Broncos at 50-1.
Now that's a Denver team that you can bet on. That's a buy low.
Yeah. But that's an example where
like Sean Payton, huh?
Love Sean Payton.
Me too.
I'm buying in
but
on
what about
on
Russell
Russ.
Wilson?
Well, that's the thing. That's the reason why I think it's 50-1.
That's why it's 50-1.
Yeah.
Who's their backup?
He could. I don't even know. But he could be completely fried. Russ could be completely cooked.
Give Sean Payton a worthy backup, and I mean that team's ready to roll. It's just Russ has one good year left. Usually, and again, the NFL situation is so different than the NBA. Because in the NBA, like, even though we're not betting the Nuggets at 6-1 now, they're going to be a top 4 team come, April. Maybe they're the 2 seed or the 3 seed, but they'll be in the mix. Where in the NFL, the worst to first, it happens significantly more than it does in any other sport.
Jared Stidham, the backup for Denver.
Yeah, I think you're in trouble there. If it's not Russ.
That's why it's 50-1, folks.
I mean, I guess you could do worse than Russ, but you just don't know.
Yeah.
There's a high ceiling, low floor there. I hope the ceiling's high because I'll be honest, that division's ready to cook if Russ is.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to ask you just a general talking point. Staying with this conversation here, because last year I was all in on the Chargers. This year, I still like the Chargers again. I'm going to be stubborn. I'm going to be like, look, because I know what's going to happen, right, Jared? I'm not going to bet the Chargers, and then they're going to go on a run, and I'm going to be miserable.
Gambler's fallacy right
there.
there.
So
the Chargers have the same chances of going on a run, whether or not you bet on them.
That's true. But mentally, I need that.
I know. That's literally the gambler's fallacy.
So,
but I love it. I do it every day. It's normal. It's human nature.
I'm trying to find all these reasons to bet the Broncos and to bet the Chargers, not betting the Raiders. I think that's.
What about win total? See, to me, if you asked me, what is the best pre-flop NFL futures market to fish in? It's the win totals market.
Right.
That's where you get the most value.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Those are
you
also
can play
the
both
ones,
win totals, right? You don't have to pick a team to win a division, right?
Yeah. Those are also the ones where I've heard that are more professional better bets.
You have to be early.
Yeah.
But I would consider now still relatively early compared to the rest of when the public usually bets win totals, which is
August.
Yeah. Preseason, basically.
Yeah.
They watch a team play preseason week 1, week 2. Some guy makes a spectacular catch, and then they run to that team to bet.
Rookie of the year. This guy.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Starts going.
Because right now we don't have, gambling has become so visceral for our generation. We see it, we bet it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the professionals, they have a number already on their screen.
Yeah.
And then they grade that number compared to what the sportsbook's number is. And that's how they determine their bet. I talk to professional friends, I'm sure you do too. They don't even watch the game.
I was going to bring that up.
They don't want to watch the games.
They don't want to be influenced by
our generation,
anything.
the younger generation, we see it. This guy makes a spectacular catch. Rookie of the year, MVP, win total, Super Bowl, cash it, check mark.
Yep.
Emoji, blah, blah, blah. That's how our generation is. But the more seasoned pro, it's all numbers on a screen. It's a math equation. That's all it is to them.
Yeah,
really,
they bet numbers, not teams.
They don't even watch the games.
Yeah, they don't want to see this guy just had 200 yards, Justin Jefferson.
It affects
they don't want
them.
Yeah.
It's about removing emotion from the equation.
Right.
Which is, in my opinion, the hardest thing to do. And I think only true Jedi masters can achieve it. I do this for a living every day. I can't achieve it. No, not 100%, maybe 90% more than 10 years ago. I can control the triggers, the tilt, that I have full control over. But to not let what I watch affect what I bet, that's impossible. It's impossible because we have to watch
Hold on.
to do our show.
Is it sports specific though?
No, it's anything, because it's human nature to be right.
Mm.
So when we're not right, we get upset, and then that leads to other things. It's about diagnosing when you're upset and channeling that anger into something that's not clicking submit on another bet, going for a walk or going out, like stepping away from the screen. Like that's the way to manage the triggers, but it's impossible to eliminate the emotion of watching. You're watching it. It happens. Like you feel it. You just have to channel that energy better. Yeah. You think it's sports specific?
I think it's sports
like
specific.
In what way? Go further there.
So I don't allow what I've seen to influence me when it comes to a sport like MMA and the UFC.
Okay. Because that's a sport you professionally wager on because you really give out picks?
That, and also because that one, you always hear the expression of styles make fights.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So yeah, if you're a knockout artist and I'm a knockout artist, maybe that one I won't attack. But if I know that you are a liability on the ground and I am a jiu-jitsu black belt or this all-world wrestler, that's me knowing the sport. And it's sport specific in the sense where it's the only sport, dude, that I don't care if you hit me up and you're like, dude, 98% of the bets coming in at this sports book I'm at is on
phony baloney. But we can get into the bet percentages stuff.
Yeah. But just in general, where you're like, oh, dude, everyone I know is betting John Jones, right? Yeah. Like I've been using the John Jones analogy because everyone was hitting me up, like even Jeremiah. Shout out to Jeremiah. He was like,
shout out Jeremiah,
dude. John Jones, do you think John Jones is gonna win? I was with him. I went to the fights with him when he fought in March, and he went to the bathroom right before that fight started. And he goes, "Dude, I'm in the bathroom," and everyone's like, "Oh, this is a layup. This is an auto bet." He's like, "I think I'm gonna bet on."
And he ended up losing.
No, he had bet on Jones, but he's like, "I want to hedge it out with Gane." He takes out his phone, dude. I grab his phone and I put it in my pocket. I was like, "We're not doing that. Not for this fight." And then lo and behold, in 3 minutes, he puts him out. But it's the only sport, dude, where if you hit me up and you're like, man, this Monday night game, like 90% of the bets are coming in on the Chargers, I might be like, you know what? I'm probably going to, it's a dog or pass for me.
That makes sense because I think certain sports, each market is different. Gambling is not uniform. Gambling is the furthest thing from uniform. For example.
Absolutely.
I bet baseball every day. I bet 2 markets. Walks, Nerfies. That's it. And Yerfies, but same market. That's it. There's a million bets in baseball. I don't have the time or the energy to handicap every market, but the strikeout market, in my opinion, is a little more public now because of a lot of the prop experts that are out there. Most of the handicappers I see, social media, props is a specialty. Sides and totals is not a market they swim in as much sometimes. But I think there's more prop experts out there now than there definitely were a couple years ago. And I think certain props are more popular. So I know certain markets move in different ways. The NFL is in like another stratosphere from a baseball Yerfy, Nerfy, or walks market. That market is so public. There's so much money that flows into it every day. It's like a completely different ocean. It's like comparing an ocean to a lake. So it's just, they move in different ways. They react in different ways. Numbers reopen, they close in certain ways, the flow of the market. It's just, I think everyone can be like an expert in one market and have no idea of another. Like I can bet baseball every day and I can be an expert in these 2 markets, and then strikeouts, I don't even know. What? Same pitcher, totally different handicap. So it's just, I think every market, I think every gambler should specialize in something really specific that is like a niche. Like for you, it's MMA. Very specific niche.
Yeah, and also with MMA, it's the prop betting in the sense of stuff. Dude, I'm not going to lay minus 500 on a favorite, but I rather plus 200 for them to win by submission when he has 19 of his 28 wins by submission. Those are the kind of edges that I try to get there.
And you also you invest in that market personally.
Yeah,
that's another thing too. Whereas in certain markets, for example. For me, the NFL, I invest a lot of my personal time into that market. I watch NFL games every single week since I was a kid. So it might be a difficult market to beat, and I'm aware of that. But I personally am invested in this market. So I am going to continue to play it every week. Even though I know long-term, probably not going to win. And if I do, it'll be marginal. But you love it.
Yeah.
You work out. You do jiu-jitsu, right? Like, even if you knew that you maybe were in a market that's not the easiest market to win at, and football's the hardest, still going to play it every week.
For sure.
Like, just,
and it's also
your thing.
It's also what you mentioned just now, how everyone loves to bet the NFL, but it's the hardest one to be good at.
You have to know that going in.
Yeah.
And if you do, you do. Like, for me, the most success I have in football is college football bowl season. That's when the market's the most beatable, I think. But college football season in general.
Dude, for me, I have these picks archived on the Patreon because every week I do a Patreon exclusive where I'll just release like the 5 plays that I would put in my contest, because I'm in a couple contests.
The contests, I think, are becoming a lot more popular out here now with the proxy services too.
Yeah, and also
I think you're going to see more variety with the contest going forward in the next like 10 years.
And people like to put up $500 to $1,000 for a chance to win millions. It's why the daily fantasy stuff
people are
blew
competitive.
Up. It's why some of these sports books, which we're not going to mention because they're not a sponsor of the show, and I will when they do sponsor the show. That's why people like those $25 same game parlays to win a down payment on a house.
There's nothing wrong. Listen, there's nothing wrong with betting a parlay.
No, there isn't. But you need to know that they're sucker bets.
Yes.
This is what I say.
Same thing.
Dude, so
same thing with like lowing the NFL as a tough market, but I'm still going to bet it. I watch it every week. I talk about it every day for my job. Of course I'm going to bet it. Do I think I'm a professional at it? No, but I'm going to bet it every week. It's fun. I love it.
This is what I tell people about. I love every year I put a little bit of my bankroll aside to what I call really dumb bets.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like this guy to lead the league in receiving yards, this guy to lead the league in rushing, most interceptions. And I know I'll talk to some people that they do this for a living and they're like, you know, it's negative EV. I'm like, dude, it's also fun. Give me something to just randomly root for.
So the thing, and we have a culture of everyone wants to be, and listen, I want to be right all the time. I want to be right every day. I want to be the smartest person out there in the world, but I'm also real, humble at times, I think, sometimes. I hope. I try to stay away from people telling me what not to do.
I love this.
To me,
in general too, not just
not just with gambling advice, but
you know, if you tell me how I am, if you tell me, dude, there's this song you got to check out,
you don't want to listen to it.
I will the first time.
Okay, and if it's not good,
no, I'll be like, you know what, Jared told me to listen to the song. You send me the link, cool.
Sure.
Say I don't get to it because I'm busy. If you come the next day and you're like, dude, did you hear that song? I'll be like, I'll get to it. If you come a third date, you know what I'm not doing?
Listen to this.
Ever listening to that song.
Well, I think we have everyone wants to be right.
Right.
So social media is an easy place to just dump thoughts and ideas. And if you're right, great. You can retweet it and check mark it. If you're wrong, you just let it die. I stay away from people that want to try to tell me what not to do. Like I follow a lot of really sharp, smart handicappers, professional gamblers, way smarter than me. Analytics, numbers, ratings, everything. When they start preaching to me like, you can't do this or else you can't do your job. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not betting like $20,000 on a parlay here. Just putting $100 on a parlay because I'm interested in it. Like, I think that's where I struggle with what our industry is kind of becoming. Everyone wants to tell you what not to do.
Yeah.
It's your money at the end of the day, people. It's your money. And also, I liken it to kind of the dining industry. You can tell people what they want, like where they want to go. You never know. What are they in the mood for? You in the mood for Italian? You in the mood for Mexican? Do you want fast food? Bet a parlay. Do you want fine dining? Try to get closing line value on an NFL side. A lot harder to do, a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Fast food's easy. It's cheap. It's quick. It's delicious. I love it. I eat it all the time. That's like a parlay, right? But it's all, you don't know. It's all in the consumer is the point that I'm trying to make. Like, instead of talking down to people about what they shouldn't do, give your opinion. Well, parlays are bad because you should not bet parlays. Here's why parlays are bad. Because the casinos make 20% hold on it compared to 5% on sides and totals. Yeah. That's why parlays are bad. But I know before I eat my In-N-Out burger that it's not the healthiest thing for me. I'm still crushing it and I'm enjoying every second of it. Same thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like people going on social media and saying, don't eat at McDonald's because it is bad for you. Why don't you just say, if you eat at McDonald's, this is what you're eating. That's it. And I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Don't bet parlays. This guy is a fraud. He's betting parlays. Like, well, okay.
It's the only industry where even when you're right, even if you're right, if you tell me Giants -7 and you're right, you'll still get heat for it. Dude, you were lucky. You shouldn't have got it.
Giving out tweets, giving out pics on Twitter when you get to the status that we're at. You're either right and you should be right, you're the expert, or you're wrong and you're an idiot. Yeah. What's my upside there? There's zero upside. It's lose-lose.
It's the best, my favorite interaction, and I probably get this legitimately once a week. They'll ask me, a fan will hit me up and they'll be like, what do you think about the Jaguars this year? Yeah. And I'll tell them what I think about the Jaguars.
I like the Jaguars this year.
If it's positive, I do too. Just first team that came to mind.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good team to come to mind.
Jaguars, how do I feel about them? I'll say it. If it's positive, they love it. If they ask me, how do I feel about the Jaguars, and I slander them, dude, you don't know what you're talking about anyway. Why am I listening to you?
It's probably a Jaguars fan.
I get that once a week.
I think the best DMs I get are obviously asking for picks, straight up. That's always my favorite.
Yeah.
Like, just who do you like tonight?
I send them the link to the podcast.
That's good.
I think the thing I do all the time.
I think though, if you right, you always say you get out what you put out, right? Or you get in what you put out. Like, so you put out like positive content, you'll get back a community of positive people. If you're angry all the time on social media, you're gonna have a lot of angry people in your DMs. If you're always talking down and always upset about something, curmudgeon, like, I can't believe this team did this, or I can't believe this team stinks, this team this, I hate this freaking team, they do this. You're gonna get a lot of angry replies. You put out a positive vibe, only a true troll responds negatively to like a positive message. And that's how you know, all right, well, now you're gone.
Yeah.
Mute, block, whatever. Probably not block, but mute.
Make a mental note.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, usually it's like a 2 or 3 strike rule with me. You hop in once, all right, maybe I had a bad day. Hop in twice to a negative, then you're muted probably. It's usually 2 strikes.
I love it. I love it. I want to end the show with some positive vibes.
Yes.
You were at Game 5
Dude.
For the Golden Knights. You were in the building.
The Stanley Cup and I were both in the building then.
Let's go. Hey, by the way, Vegas, shout out to Jared and I. We move to Vegas and you guys win a cup, so you're welcome.
And the Aces win the WNBA title.
And you were here for that?
Yeah, October. So you maybe just got into town. I came in August. So
2 titles.
And the A's announced the move here.
Oh, man.
The A's followed us here.
Who's better than us? How was
Nobody. Oh, my goodness gracious.
I've seen my team win a championship twice in person.
So my teams are the Jets, the Yankees, which I've obviously watched win a title, but never in person. Jets. Rangers, watched on TV when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
Never in person. Knicks. That. But also I've been to a Super Bowl last year, the 2 Super Bowls ago, the Rams Bengals Super Bowl. Awesome to watch someone lift the Lombardi trophy and to witness that spectacle. LA, Vegas this year Super Bowl will be much better, but that's neither here nor there. And then to watch a team lift the cup. I mean, I know Vegas is not my team. They're not. I grew up a Rangers fan, but I live in Vegas now. I consider myself now a second son, right? Like this is where I am now located for the foreseeable future, and I have fallen in love with this town.
So what do you?
I don't have a problem saying like I'm a Vegas fan now.
Do you feel uncomfortable saying it?
Yeah, I do because I know what people will say, but also I don't care what people say anymore. I'm a Vegas Golden Knights fan. Like I
don't think there's anything wrong if you move to a city and you adopt their fan base and their culture.
Especially because it came at a time in my life again where I felt like this like renewal moving here. And by the way, the desert absolutely has healing powers. Being outside, nature, all that stuff.
Dude, we come from a place where we see 19
Concrete
degrees for 9 straight weeks.
Buildings and I know there's no like green, but when I go out and drive, and I live kind of on the outskirts of town, like the mountains and like the desert air. So I don't want it to be like a spiritual, like, powwow here.
We also sound old right now.
We do. And listen, I've embraced it. I'm almost 40. I've embraced it. Like I'm a couple of breaths away from 40 here. But there's something about when you move to a town, if the sporting teams are relatively new and they don't have the connections that you would think that like moving to Boston would.
Right.
Yeah, it feels like there's room on the bandwagon. Like or not the bandwagon, but there's room on the Vegas fandom for sure. We live here now.
Yeah.
I'm a Vegas resident. I'm a local. Like, I don't pay parking at the casinos. I give them my driver's license. Like, I feel like I'm here. So I don't feel reserved about it, but New York will always hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah, look.
I think it's more like it's like I'm like the allocation's changing.
Mm-hmm.
Where like it's not 100% New York anymore. Like Vegas has taken a slice of my heart.
I wouldn't go that far.
Vegas has taken a slice of my heart, man.
They have too, but like if the Rangers play the Golden Knights, I think you're rooting for the Rangers.
Probably.
Whoa!
Yeah, yes. If the Rangers play it, yes, it's a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And
if they play anyone else,
I can exist in multiple realms. Like that's the thing. Like when you're young, everything's black and white. I feel like the older I get, I can exist in more gray area where I can, if the Rangers play the Golden Knights, yes, you're right. I would root for the Rangers in Stanley Cup if they play the Golden Knights, but they're in different conferences. The odds of that happening are very slim. It's probably never going to happen. Probably never a problem I'm going to have. So I feel good about my Vegas fandoms right now. Raiders though, no. NFL runs too deep.
Listen, if the Giants play the Raiders in the Super Bowl, which the Giants are playing the Raiders this year.
And the Jets are playing the Raiders.
Yeah, back-to-back weeks.
And those will be the first time those teams ever play in the city of Las Vegas. I told my mom this a few weeks ago. I was like, Mom, I'm going to witness the first Jets game ever in the city of Las Vegas and the first Yankees game in
when they come.
2 years.
Yeah. There's no chance in hell I would root for the Raiders.
Yeah, I think because like for me growing up, hockey was always... Oh boy, he's a big Raiders fan.
But he should, that Antoine in there, our head audio guy, he should be very thankful for me, truthfully, because I turned Josh Jacobs' career around.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I came on the pod and I called him super mid, and then he led the league. He led the league in rushing.
He obviously was listening.
Yeah,
but like that's the thing about like certain sports hold different parts of my heart. Like I was a Rangers fan. I played hockey growing up. Used to love the Rangers. Obviously, they were really good in the 90s. They had Wayne Gretzky. They won the Cup 94. But then later on in life, hockey became less important in my life. Football, baseball, basketball became more important. So the Rangers were always kind of like the fourth team on my list anyways. And now that I've moved here, it's not that I love the Rangers any less. The Knights have really, this city has captured a slice of my heart. That experience the other night, that's the greatest trophy celebration in all sport. When they lift that cup and they hand it to everyone, what other trophy celebration is that memorable in any sport?
Yes, you are absolutely right. Because everyone gets their moment with it.
And they scream just as loud for every player.
Right,
the coaches.
Right. And it's spotlighted too. Like the camera's on, the sixth defenseman.
Yeah.
Like it
Jonathan
matters.
Quick
Yeah.
lifted the cup before Aiden Hill.
Yeah.
And the crowd cheered just as loud. Actually, Hill got a little more loud, but the crowd was really loud for Jonathan Quick, who played like 5 games. It was like the third goalie on the roster, but veteran who had won cups before, but veteran.
Yeah, he beat the Rangers.
Oh, that was a tough cup. And well, the irony is I was watching the feed. Nick Martinez scored a goal. They showed that goal that beat the Rangers because Lundqvist was on the TNT set. So that was a tough memory to relive. But the Rangers were always kind of like that team that I love them, but they're not the Yankees and Jets were always the diehards for me.
And I also think because you're such a sports fan, a guy like you, it would make sense that you feel this way about a city.
I'm going to get a lot of shit about this from you.
No,
I'm sure I will. I got shit from my New York people the other night wearing a Vegas shirt. Just wearing the shirt at the game.
You got shit from me when you said that. When you delayed, had to second guess and think about a Rangers.
I love this town, bro. I've fallen in love with this town, man. I don't need a wife. I have this town. I have my dog. I have this town. I'm good. I don't need a relationship. This is my relationship right now. This is with this town and with myself, really.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, man. This was fun to chop it up with you. I'm happy for your success out here. I'm happy that we became friends and we connected both professionally and personally. And this is a dope conversation. I'm about to record with Jared another episode. You'll be able to listen to that as you listen to this on the Patreon, patreon.com/veterans minimum. As we can see, look at this addition that we've made. We got the tiers up here. And for a small contribution to the Patreon, you guys get a lot of perks.
A good program too. Like it's a good community. You get people on there.
Yeah,
I used to have one too for picks.
And you have merch giveaways, merch discounts at the merch store. Get the episodes early. Jared and I are going to talk about the AFC East, a division that is close to home. As you guys just heard, he's not going to root for anyone else but the Jets. Jets. Jared, let people know where they can find you on social media.
At Jared Lee Smith, Twitter, TikTok. I'm actually at Pit Pics these days. I created a social media account for my dog to put out pics. Like everyone does the selfie videos of their pics, which is cool. I get it. It's easy. But now I'm letting my dog give out some of my pics. So follow Jackpot on TikTok at Pit Pics.
Let's go.